Okay.
Why have I quit my job? Why have I, bought a van? And why am I going to drive around the country? Well, I'm passionate about the idea that you need to be heard. And I want to stitch these stories together across the states. We're going to find the commonalities. And it's going to be really an amazing experience. And I look forward to you joining me on the jar.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Mental Health Today podcast. And, it's just a show where we're bringing on different guests, literally every day, just about of the week. And we have about 5 or 7 shows a week, bring on people in the mental health space, sometimes professionals that have been in there for 20 years, sometimes people who have gone on a journey through mental health and have got a story to share. And it's really about building kind of a little, I call it a beehive or a reservoir of information. And some of my favorite episodes are definitely people that are trying to solve the mental health crisis from a different angle. And that's what we hope to give people a platform to do, is people who are in the space that may not be, quote unquote, mainstream at the moment, but are trying to do their part and are passionate about it, getting in there and doing some good work around mental health, kind of a bit like the show. I mean, so we're kindred spirits. And so today it's Neil Gehani, and Neil's got an interesting. He doesn't, you look at his LinkedIn profile, he doesn't look like he's in mental health space in any professional way. And then all of a sudden he takes a hard turn, and there you are. You are where you are. And he's doing some really cool stuff in this space. And I actually don't know a lot yet, and I'm looking forward to learning along with the listeners. Neil, welcome to the show. Thanks for being a guest. Thanks for sharing your story.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah.
Yeah, look forward to kind of getting an idea. What was that? How did you go from doing your startups, doing the tech space, and then really kind of pivoting into MindLumen? What was that like?
Yeah, it was a journey. It was a long journey, but probably 2015, I think, was a pivotal point when I was asking myself that something was off. I just didn't know what was off at that point. It was just starting to question things about, like, by all measures, I'm supposed to be successful. By all external measures, hey, I'm successful person in tech. I'm a director, head of product 3 times. I worked at a lot of startup companies, a lot of big companies. I live in San Francisco, lived in Silicon Valley as an engineer and product manager most of my life. So by all, and I'm married to a beautiful woman, I should have it all, right? I should be like super happy. And so I'm one of the statistics, like I'm one of the 70% that, okay, why are 70% of the people not happy? And I guess I was one of the 70% that really wasn't happy. And I just didn't know what triggered that question. So that's kind of what started my search. And then it took me, my first psychedelic experience was in 2017. And then it took me like 3 years to find somebody to help me with a lot of friction in the process. And it wasn't until like June of 2021 when I did 7 grams of mushrooms that just the doors freaking blew open. And 3 months later, MindLumen was born.
7 grams of mushrooms, a proper amount. That should knock down some doors inside your head.
Yeah, it certainly did. And we could talk more about how that came about, but yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'd done several of them prior to that, but that just allowed me to go so much deeper into myself and learn about myself. And I think that is what triggered a lot of these things. I think that the process of self-discovery and learning about who you are, what you want to become, how you want to live in this world, defining a meaning and purpose to your life, all of those things were missing for me back in 2015. And then, after this, I finally found my mission and purpose. I came out of it. Even during the journey, I was telling my therapist, like, the world needs to know about this. I kept repeating that phrase. And when I got out of it, I said, the world needs to know. And she said, yeah, you were saying this during the entire time, even though I was crying for 4 hours. I would say the world needs to know about this. And I'm going, what the hell am I going to do about it? Because ultimately it's up to us as individuals to figure out what we're going to do about it. So I decided to take my knowledge in tech and try to apply it to this space and try to help others, because I wanted to remove the friction in the process for others that are going through the same process like I was going through. And many other people are suffering from trauma and mental health issues in their own cultural backgrounds, just like I did.
Yes.
So I'm not unique in that. A lot of people are dealing with it in their own way, and I wanted to offer a solution to them. So we came up with the idea of being a navigation service, essentially a harm reduction navigation service for people before they even make first contact with a potential therapist or facilitator, because you don't know what you're asking. I didn't know what questions to ask. I didn't know anything about that. So that is basically what I tried to do. I tried to answer questions, for myself, and learn about what those questions were, and went and did research. I did a lot of analytical work because my brain works analytically. So after that first experience in 2017, I didn't even know what it was. Somebody gave me something at a music festival, and I had
goodness,
zero clue.
You didn't know what?
Like,
that's not the way to go. That's not the way to start.
It's not a way to go. Oh, it's definitely
that's not frictionless.
Start, right? But no, that's not frictionless at all.
Oh goodness.
But but I was among friends, and so it was. I felt safe, and that safety is super important.
Yes.
So if I felt safe, then I went ahead and took that, and I didn't even ask what it was. I had no idea. I was just in the mood of music and dancing and people. I got to be a 5-year-old in an adult body, and I loved every minute of it, because I never got to be a child. And I just like this was sort of a freeing experience for me. It stayed up till 5 o'clock in the morning. We were huddled up by the temple. I went around like hugging and kissing everybody, any strangers that I met, and I was like a total child. It was just so beautiful. The whole thing was absolutely fantastic. And it was only until like a week or two later that I asked that person to go, okay, what was that? And what did I take? And she told me what it was, and it was actually MDA, which is sassafras. And that's what I had taken. And it wasn't a very high dose, but it was like, then I started researching everything about it. That's when I started like learning about it. That's when I came across Michael Pollan's book. That's when I read The Psychedelic Experience, The Explorer's Guide. I came across James Fadiman and a whole bunch of people in this space, because my brain just went into analytical mode and just tried to figure out, okay, I need to learn as much about this as possible.
I love it. And you'd be an animal on this. I'm sure you're an animal. When you get a dog, you're like a dog with a bone on this, I'm sure.
That's right. I just say, okay, I just need to find out everything there is to find out about it. And I just like, okay, because, to me, like I was always taught to be like, oh my God, drugs are bad. It's like, so this thing was just in the back of my head the whole time, and going, because I hadn't taken anything prior to that. Like, I had taken no substance, so this is, I'm much older, and going, okay, I've taken no experience with anything when I was a teenager like this, none, zero, right? So I'm coming into this, I need to learn everything from the ground up. And that's what I tried to do, is to learn everything on the ground up. And I found out like, I could go Google search this stuff. And you can get snippets of it, but you really can't make sense of what you're reading, because you don't know like what's real and what's not. It's just based on a lot of personal stories and anecdotes, and that's useful, but they don't make sense until you yourself have personally experienced it. They absolutely make zero sense. So
I can't imagine reading it and not having been on some sort of psilocybin or acid or MDA. No, you wouldn't make it. You wouldn't you can't understand how the mind works in those moments, on those experiences. What did you find out? What's happening? What's the tech behind, what's happening in this, this programming, right? So we got this giant, we got this little mini AWS server in between our ears, and what programming are you inserting in there with psychedelics? What happens?
It's more than the programming I'm removing, right? It's actually removing all the calcification that's happened over the conditioning that I've had over the decades, of how I'm supposed to be, and what kind of person I'm supposed to be, and what does success mean and why am I chasing happiness, and all of those sort of things that you sort of we may think is existential or philosophical questions. You start to unravel the mystery in yourself, and that's what this feels like. I feel like I'm unraveling my own mystery.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful journey to unravel my own mystery, because I think I don't know, people would just go through life, and I was just going through life and thinking, oh yeah, success means financial success. My identity was wrapped into my financial success because I grew up in an Indian Asian culture. We're very stoic. There was no sort of emotion or affection, or we weren't allowed to show our emotions, particularly in Asian and Indian cultures. Like, this is sort of a very big taboo. It's very stigmatized in our cultures. And so, it's your expression of you caring, and it's done through acts of service, whether you care for your family, whether you care for others, or whether you buy something, or it's done through sort of considered acts of service, where and that's the way I was. That's the way. So when I was married, and I'm going through a divorce right now, but when I was married, I thought that if I do good things, if I provide for my family, if I do all of these things, then I am doing good. Then why am I not happy? I should be happy, right? And that's what should make me happy. But it wasn't. The last 7 years of my life, since 2015, I just wasn't happy. But I also realized that was a wrong thing to chase. Like, happiness is something you actually chase. It's driven by external factors. If I have more money, I'll be happy. If I marry a beautiful woman, I'll be happy. If I get this, I'll be happy. If I make $1 million and then may want to make 10 million more, it's like, so you always keep chasing the happiness wheel. And so we're in this sort of happiness factor, which is why 70% of the people aren't really happy, because they're chasing happiness.
Yeah, they're still chasing and can't catch it.
Yeah, they chase it, you can never catch it. And it's, even if you do catch it, it's very transient. So basically what I ask people now, a question I ask them is like, do you want happiness or do you seek blissfulness? And that's the approach that I take to my life. I seek blissfulness because in my life, blissfulness comes from the inside. It's things that, yes, you will have moments of happiness, you'll have moments of joy, you'll have moments of sadness, you'll have moments of melancholy. Like 2 days or 3 days ago, I just felt very melancholy. So I turned on, nice, beautiful jazz music and saw tremendous beauty in that music. So I could appreciate being melancholy, that to me is a state of bliss.
Lean into it,
and it feels like.
And let all the connections happen in there, right? There's also, when you're in that space, sometimes the brain starts, you're in that melancholy and you just lean into it, and all the wires line up. And
for sure, it's a beautiful feeling when you can just do that. Some days I just like sit in still silence. I just write. There was a few days ago, I had nothing on. I just wrote in my journal for like hours and hours till my hands got tired. And then I went to bed. It's just like,
Well, after that, I mean, if you write for hours, that's a lot of brain power to formulate and to put it out into your fingertips.
Yeah, it was just random. I wasn't thinking about just whatever came to my mind. I was just writing it, and
cool.
So I call myself. That's why I don't use terms like CEO, or I'm a founding Sherpa of MindLumen, right?
I saw that. I love that. I'm a Sherpa.
So I'm a Sherpa. It's like, for external purposes, like for VCs or whatever, I have to say, oh yeah, I'm a CEO and founder. But for all practical purposes, I don't think about myself that way. I think about myself as just a Sherpa. I'm just guiding here.
Yes.
And I'm leading people on their own self-discovery. And I'm going to try and do it as safely with as little friction as possible for them. And that's really the mission that I'm on, because that's what I went through. And so I wanted other people not to have to face the same kind of things that I went to. I want them to be, when they get connected to their facilitator, to just be thinking about the healing, nothing else. Not pricing, not administrative discussions, not scheduling, not music, all of that should be taken care of. All of that's distracted away. So when they go into that conversation, the only thing on their mind is that I want to get healed, and there's someone there to help me get healed. That's it. And that's the goal. That's the mission that we're on to try and do.
So it's a service you provide when someone wants to go through with a therapy session. You help find that therapist, that facilitator, and then you help them go through all these choices. Like instead of showing up into the retail store and making all these kind of stressful decisions, you get a chance to get coached on it beforehand. I love that. And
That's
then
right.
then I can imagine
them.
myself in the space.
Yeah. We say we get them from a stage of curiosity to a stage of readiness, right?
Okay, great.
And that's what we help them with, because you can go Google search a lot of that stuff, right? But the problem is to make sense of it, it would be very difficult. And each person comes to us with their own criteria. Some of them are coming out to us with anxiety and depression and trauma. Some of them are coming out with just for moral enhancement and cognitive enhancement. There's so many different reasons that people want to go through this process, but our first and foremost is that we focus on therapeutic level doses, so what we call macro level doses. That's what we focus on. We do advise people on micro and museum doses, but we kind of focus on that. Second, we look at all the criteria that it's from the seeker's perspective. We don't call them patients, clients, customers, or users, because that's a very capitalistic and very transactional term.
Yeah.
So we call them they're seekers of bliss in their own life. That's who they are. And so that's what we want to help them with. And so on the facilitator side, we have facilitators on our network, and we match them up, the seeker to the right facilitator for them, right? And that's the important thing. And so there's lots of variation of facilitators, because if somebody's coming in with some amount of experience, you want to know if the facilitator has the ability to guide that person with that level of experience. If somebody says, I want to do 4.5 grams or 5 grams of mushrooms, are they ready for it? And if they're ready for it, do you have a facilitator on the other side that has done that numerous times, not only personally themselves, but has actually done that with someone, right? In a group or individual setting. So you kind of need to know that. And that's what we mean by harm reduction. We're not making a judgment whether you should or shouldn't do this, right? We think people are going to do it anyway. The question would be, how do we make sure that it's safe for people to actually go through this? And how can you make sure that it's a guided and facilitated experience? Because when you're going into your mindset in something like a macro level dose, I don't want to be worrying about where I kept my house key so I don't walk out the door and get hit by a bus or fall down a flight of stairs, or I don't want that to be in my mind. Like, I want my mind to be like totally free.
You need to be in a safe place. You need to be. That's absolutely true. Place.
Yeah, and we, in a safe environment, a safe place, and decluttering the space is super important. You have to have the right music. And those types of things are super important to be part of that journey. But more importantly, it's just like making sure that, because we talk about these 4 things, like intention, setting, and integration, right? And so we teach people that you need these 4 things, and the last one is super important, like integration. If you don't integrate what you learn, then you're just going to spend thousands of dollars, and it'll be a complete waste. Because you haven't learned anything, you haven't taken that lesson, and you haven't applied it to your life, you haven't improved yourself or improved the world or added something to it.
Yes.
So we make sure that people understand that integration is really, really important to go in, but you also got to go in with some intention. What is the question you want to ask for yourself? And each journey is going to be different. So each journey requires some sort of intention setting. And then, of course, the 2 conditions for the journey, which is your mindset needs to be completely free and clear, and totally open. Like I checked, I recently came back, maybe a month and a half ago, I did an ayahuasca journey and came back from a 5-MeO journey. And before each of them, I took my blood pressure and my heart rate. My heart rate was 57. My blood pressure was 101/70. I was in a beautifully calm state when I went in. And so my journey was absolutely freaking beautiful. Both of them were absolutely fantastic. And I didn't have any sort of bad trip, or what they call bad trip, challenging experience. And there's no such thing as a bad trip. It's a challenging experience, but that's because there are own challenges we face.
There's probably a reason you're facing those little hard spots. I mean, you're peeling away your soul. Then sometimes you get to some layers. Yeah, there's sometimes you get to a layer that's got a kind of a bear mask on. You got to talk to that
Exactly.
guy.
That's
Got to get
right.
past the
Yeah.
bear mask guy to get to the next clown mask, and eventually
Oh,
you'll
yeah,
find the
totally.
angels. Eventually you'll find
Yeah.
the angels in
You
there.
will. Yeah,
You'll find your purity.
it's not a one-time thing. Yeah, you will. And it's not a one-time thing, right? I think it's not something you'd have to
Agreed.
do every day or every time or even every month. I probably do it maybe 2 to 4 times a year. That's enough,
That would be enough.
for me.
Yeah.
And because I need time to integrate what I do. Like my journey between the 7 grams of mushrooms in 2021 and 7 grams of mushrooms with ketamine in 2022 was a year apart.
Hmm.
You know,
What did you learn? Give us an example of something like an integration. Is there one that you could share that you went through, like something that you came out of it and you went, all right, that's something I didn't know about myself, or a relationship or
yeah,
something.
yeah. So I'll tell you, like, I mean, obviously integration is you talk with your therapist, you can write, you can journal, you can do integration circles. There are many ways,
Hmm.
ways to do that. One of the best integrations, I think, my own personal experience is that when I did like 7 grams of journey with ketamine, the very next week I went to a 10-day Vipassana retreat. So it's complete
Okay.
silent meditation for 10 days. It's the most hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Like harder than anything, any journey, harder than my ayahuasca journeys. It's extremely difficult to do 10
Ooh.
days of Vipassana where you're not talking to anybody, you're in perfect silence, you're not making eye contact, you can't even read, you can't write, nothing, like for 10 straight
Oh
days. You're
man.
meditating for 10 to
Does
11
this mean
hours.
no
Okay?
MTV, no MTV either?
No MTV, nothing, no TV, no music, no nothing, right? It's you're meditating for 10 to 12 hours a day. Um, it is the most difficult and challenging thing that I've ever had to do. And in that period was the most best integration period of my life for that
Okay. Yeah,
7 or 8 grams
for
of mushrooms, right? Because to me, the way I think about it, like you can get to these altered states of consciousness through meditation. Just
Yes.
pure meditation will get you there. You can do holotropic breath work. There's many ways to get to this. So that's why when I talk about psychedelics, it's just a catalyst. It's a very great, beautiful catalyst, but it's a catalyst nonetheless.
Yeah.
It is not the be all and the end all. It is useful for a lot of people, and it's a very fast acting catalyst. And so the way I think about it, I actually drew this picture up right after my meditation. You can think about psychedelic experience as sort of step function increases, right? Whereas meditation is sort of slow and gradual over a much longer period of time.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
those steps up sometimes feel like a little bit of a high. Like I didn't know I could go that high.
that's
Yeah.
right. But
It's a
the
great
horizontal part of the step, right, is where you integrate. And that's where
Yes, yeah.
meditation comes in. So the combination of meditation and the integration work post psychedelics, that's
Okay.
a great combination that
Mm.
you use. So I meditate, probably 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the evening, that kind of thing. So that just adds to it. And that is very helpful for me to integrate. But I write a lot. A lot of people, for me, writing in my journal makes sense for me as an integration technique to think about it. But also talking to people and being close to my friends and sharing, those are super important.
Yeah, it's really fascinating stuff. We had a guest on who had opened up ketamine. Um, trying to recall what I would call it, not an office, but a clinic. A clinic, and where
Mhm.
they had
Yeah,
the doctors there, and they're administering it's in Colorado.
yeah,
They put you on the drip,
yeah.
and just talking about what the benefits are of that. And so I didn't know it was also combined with mushrooms.
Yeah, you can
Goodness.
do that in a lozenge form. Yeah, you can. So I took it in a lozenge form, and
Oh,
so
okay.
and it actually tastes terrible. It's a horrible tasting substance, So people don't know what it tastes terrible. It's like, and I had to hold it in my mouth for I think a good 10 to 15 minutes, and not like swallow it or chew it I actually like just hold it in the back of my mouth and tongue for a good 15 minutes, right? And it tastes terrible. So you cannot, it's not something you would want to go, oh shit, yeah, I'm going to try that. it's
Yeah, I
it's
think there's a nasal spray that they use, and
yeah,
then and then that's the one that they're able to get a patent on. So that's reimbursable through insurance. But this team is using the IV.
Yeah, because IV drip is what a lot of people use when you go into the clinic, or they will use a lozenge as well. But you have to be careful about who's ethical here. Well, one of the key things that we try to do as sort of the ethical steward of the industry is that we created what's called an ethical reputation system. So we give every clinic operation an ethical reputation score. It's sort of a 0 to 100 scale, right? And so that's how you know if people are operating ethically.
Oh, it'd be good.
I'll
make sure to connect you guys.
Yeah, that would be super good. And they don't have to be in our network. We will still create a score for everybody, that whether they're on our network or not on our network. We just prioritize people on a network. That's all. But they don't have to be. We don't charge any listing fees to being on a network, so there's no fee for being on a network. So that's what we try to do. But we create this ethical reputation score because ethics is super important to us. And if we have a bias, our bias is towards those seeking care, which is also why we ourselves are not a provider, right? We're not providing services to people on our own, because it allows us to be removed from that conflict of interest. So we can be completely unbiased, we can be independent, and therefore we can be trusted, and our system can be trusted. And that's why we do what we do. So it's on purpose. But we do have a bias, and our bias is going to be towards the seekers, and that's what we care about.
Are you going to do, we're getting kind of close. Maybe some thoughts on expanding the awareness or the legality or just the marketing of it. How, because I could see you're in a great spot if you've got this kind of, brokerage going, and you're able to identify some key things of importance in making decisions about where you go regarding safety and the ethical nature of the clinic. You're in a great spot to help a lot of people, right? You're a matchmaker. But also too, it's like getting the word out and the marketing and the legality of it. How do you see that shaping up in the next couple of years?
Yeah, that's a challenge for us, right? And the reason we do these podcasts and shows and stuff is because if people don't know about us, then we can't help people. And so the biggest challenge for us is awareness. How do people know about us? And that is so doing shows like yours and being on a show next week is like that is our way of building awareness. So we don't get it because we don't deal with any substances directly ourselves. So one of the ways we sort of are protected is that we're essentially a harm reduction service. We are not offering substances. People can't come to us, get served, buy stuff from us, But if you're operating in one of the 18 or 20 jurisdictions in the United States, 2 states and about 18 counties, where it's deprioritized, decriminalized, or legalized, we can operate pretty safely in those jurisdictions. So that's how our go-to-market approach works. And there's many international places, of course, we can operate pretty freely. Mexico, Costa Rica, Jamaica, all of the, Ecuador, Colombia, Brazil, Netherlands, Portugal, many other places that we can operate pretty freely. So we're okay. But even in those jurisdictions, even though in those jurisdictions we potentially could offer substances, we decided not to do that. We think that once substances becomes fully legalized, then maybe we'll build up an e-commerce place or something like that. But we don't need to do that right now. I think for us is to get care. So if you're in Oakland, I can tell you to go to the church and what to buy and what species, and let you know what potency each of them have, and how many grams, and you can bring your own if you want with your therapist, or your therapist can probably provide. They can grow their own. Mushrooms are pretty easy to grow. It's not that complicated to grow, which is also why this whole notion about the investments making in sort of the drug development part of it versus the services part of it. The services part is growing like twice as fast as the substance part of it. The substance cost, just to give you a good picture, an average journey book, which is typically 2 prep sessions, a full journey day, and 2 integration sessions, that typically goes for between $2,000 and $5,000, right? and you're going to take one substance, typically like MDMA or psilocybin, right? Guess what the cost of MDMA is for that whole thing? Like $15.
I would say like $5, something ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah. So you get a highly pure MDMA substance that you can get from MAPS or from whoever. Like that's $15. It's really the therapeutic container that is the expensive part, right? And it's someone's time. I mean,
it's
my
the human,
therapist
right?
is sitting with me. But it's a human. You're sitting with me for like 10 hours, the whole day, right?
Yeah.
And making sure that I'm safe. Like that's their job. They're taking care of me the whole day, right? And so it's not an easy thing to do for therapists, right? I mean, it's a very draining process for them.
Oh God, yeah.
That process.
Yeah.
Because they have to sit with you. They're dealing with all of your emotions coming out.
Yes.
They're trying to take care of you, right? It's a super hard, draining process for them. They can only do it once a week. Like most people can only do it once a week, so
yeah,
it's very, very difficult to do this kind of work. It's not a trivial.
You're not doing this 9 to 5. I mean, you're not showing up every day and it's like, all right, who's on the mushrooms today?
That's right. It'd be very unethical if actually they did that, right? And so it's super unethical to do that because you really can't give it the right amount of time or energy that it takes, and there's people that do somatic work, so you're going to have somatic work going on, people who are doing Reiki. There's a bunch of things you can combine, sound healing that goes with it sometimes. There's very different modalities that now people can combine, which works really well. But many people offer different services. So our job is not to judge what they offer. We just want to make sure that they're ethical, they're reputable, and they have personal experience with this. They have facilitated enough of them. They do have some certification and some sort of training, that they know what they're doing, they know what they're talking about. And so that's the vetting process that we go through for every facilitator. Yeah,
and they've got that harm reduction, right? You got the confidence. Neil, it's awesome having you on. It's a great. I think it's a great service you guys have put together, and I think a lot of opportunity. I think you'll find, there'll be something crack open as well. How about some closing thoughts? How do you? I think you've got how we find you there on the screen. MindLumen.xyz. What else do you want to impart with the audience?
Yeah, so I think the main thing to let the audience knows that we're here, support us. So join our community. Tell us how you can support us. Help introduce us to potential angels or funders or donors. Like we're going to operate as a public benefit corp and a nonprofit. So we're a hybrid model. There's a lot of work that we do on the nonprofit side, like making sliding scale models available for pricing for helping people who can't afford it. So those kinds of things we really need support for. So we would love to have people donate to us so we can help people who do not have the means, because we don't want money to get in the way of people getting access. So this is what we want help with people. And of course, if you can help fund our company, fund our organization, let us know, and we'll get in touch with you. That's what we want your community to know, that we're here to build awareness, and we're here to help the 5.5 billion people on this planet, which are over the age of 26. And we use over the age of 26 because that's when your prefrontal cortex is fully developed.
You're fully developed,
and you can make much more better decisions about your life. You also have a lived experience, and that lived experience also helps in terms of better able to discover for you.
Yeah. Thanks again so much. It's been like I said, been a great conversation, Neil, and I'll see you on the other side. Just hang with me for a minute. We'll run a little commercial and I'll see you on the other side. Thanks everybody for listening and supporting mental health today and everything, especially people like Neil, evangelists that are out there trying to do good stuff, other Sherpas and other evangelists.
Yeah, loose, baby.
But we're about to go and make this vessel with these great professionals in public glass. We're not part of the community, but we're from the outer family of glass blowing. Yeah, we're gonna go make a magical giant jar. with optic lenses so that if you turn it, it changes all the time. So if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.